This presentation is using instructional strategies to help ESL students improve in writing. This is an EDS educational leadership project from Lipscomb University by Patrina Smith. The objectives of this presentation are to identify instructional tools in the classroom to help students become more proficient writers. Also, identify ways to give effective feedback to their students to increase writing proficiency, and identifying different ways for students to publish their writing, whether on paper and electronically. The rationale for this project is that right now there are some techniques that are not working for ESL students, and we'll need to think of ways to change to help with their access scores because over the years I've noticed that the writing score is significantly lower than the other scores for listening, speaking, and reading. So the guiding question is, how can we use more effective writing techniques to increase the achievement for writing? So I pulled up a few student scores from the WIDA Access last year, and it's showing increasing scores for almost all the mains, but the writing score, which is on the right, is a little bit lower or significantly lower. So that was the main purpose of this project, is to close that gap. I searched several articles from Google Scholar, and I wanted to learn about what other countries were doing and what other types of schools are doing to help ESL students with their writing achievement. Classrooms have different approaches to writing. Not all of them are effective for ESL students. Some instructors focus on grammar while others focus on content and organization. With the increasing number of ESL students, it is important for all teachers to know how to instruct them because they'll need a little bit extra support in the classroom. There are a few variables that affect language proficiency: language learning skills, experiences, strategies, and attitudes towards writing. Part of motivating students is to let them know that writing skills are going to be used past high school. So if they know that they're going to use them in the future and connect it to things like jobs or like communicating with family, that they'll be more motivated to improve in that skill. Another important thing needed to write is pragmatic competence. So that's using context to help with meaning in language and culture. Especially with several types of prompts, there's a little bit of background knowledge that's needed. Pragmatic competence is also important when writing. So pragmatic competence is how using context contributes to meaning in a language or culture. So that's really related to background knowledge. But it's broken down in two parts. So we have the social part where we have background knowledge and culture, and then the pragmalinguistics. So the linguistics part is the part that focuses on our our skills with grammar in the writing process. Writing centers are the equivalent to a tutoring center. So they are a great way for students to get additional support in writing. So they're able to get their needs met and with what skill they need. So they will be able to have their one-on-one or small group instruction. So the best way is to replicate this in the classroom, either through centers or writer's workshop. The eclectic approach is a really effective way to teach writing. So, this has several learning activities based on the different aspects of writing. And also remembering that writing can be social, creative, and cognitive. It blends things together, such as grammar with the content, to make writing more effective. The instructor is not just going to pull out one skill, such as commas. The instructor will be pulling all the aspects of writing when doing a writer's workshop or doing a mini lesson in writing so that the students look at their writing as one whole. In this approach, the students have individual goals, or they may have a checklist where they choose things that are the most important for them to improve and then work their way down. So this will let them have their personality, creativity, and their choice when they are writing. The paragraph first approach is very successful for ESL students. So in this approach, you have a focus on organization of each of your paragraphs. So that would be the focus, because if our paragraph's not organized, it's not going to be easy to read. So that will be the number one focus of this approach. And then after they have the organization, then you can look at the mechanics of your paragraph. Collaborative writing is also a great way for ESL students to learn from peers, especially if you have mixed ability groups. So students are able to do things like peer editing or to collaboratively write one paper. The peer-to-peer feedback greatly improves students' proficiency in writing. This is an extension of the peer writing group, where the student with the higher proficiency level is able to reinforce their skills in writing by helping a student who has a lower proficiency level. And when students look at a model paper or exemplar paper, they can see what they want to aspire to in their writing. So that's why it's always important to have an example of what the finished product will look like, so the student knows where they're going as they're working on a paper. When students work independently, it would be beneficial for them to have a checklist or a rubric where they can self-assess their paper before they turn it in. They can also ask a peer to assess their paper before they turn it in. Bao was a former ESL student, and he wrote about his experience with his paper. And one of the main things that he struggled with was academic writing. So that's why it's so important to have our graphic organizers as well as feedback to support the writing. Teachers must focus their feedback on the writing objectives. So it'll help our students stay focused on different aspects that they need to improve on. Written feedback is always better in this case, so they have a model for when they're editing the rest of their writing. They can go back to the first paragraph and see changes that were made. Direct feedback as well as indirect feedback, where the teacher will guide a student into the correct writing form, can help, but the combination of direct and indirect feedback will be best, as well as adding in peer-to-peer feedback. Technology can be used to help teach writing skills. Using technology is important because more and more assessments are on the computer, and once students are comfortable using the computer, they're able to focus on the content of their writing. Blogs are a good way to show feedback. a teacher or other peers can leave comments or make suggestions for a student's writing. So this will just be an updated version of a writer's workshop in whole group. Social networking can help students with their communication, either with writing or reading. They can share their ideas a little bit more easily in case that student happens to be a little hesitant to speak in class. They could type their ideas where they're able to work on their speaking and also writing. Mobile learning can also help as because of the easily given feedback. This would be able to give more personalized feedback on writing and allow the student to message back about the changes that he or she has made and if there's anything else that would be better for the editing process. Now we're going to focus on things that you can do in the classroom to support EL learners. So we have our background information before we start any academic writing, the thinking maps that can be used to support writing, mentor texts to give the really good example of what their finished product will look like, writers' workshops where students work on one piece of writing continually, writing centers where students can work with partners to work on different types of writing and writing skills, and also integrating technology because a lot of writing in the future will be on either a laptop or a desktop. Making content comprehensible for English learners, the SIOP model, has been really helpful for me because it lets me think of ways to differentiate and to build content before we do anything else such as reading or writing. This book gives a lot of additional strategies besides the things such as the KWL chart or just popcorning ideas. Thinking maps are a great way for students to process their thinking before they start writing their essays or paragraphs. The circle map, double bubble map, flow map, and tree map are really good about breaking down the thinking into pre-made paragraphs or essays. Mentor text is a great way to model what a text could look like. So after reading a mentor text, you may want to use a graphic organizer to help build a text similar to that so the students can go through the whole process. So far, fourth grade has had to change the ending of a book for a culminating task. So other grades may have things similar where they pull out a part of the text where students may reword something or they may change the ending or change a part of a scene. I have also used mentor text to show something like a fable, and then students will write their own fable. Younger students or level 1 students can use picture books as a mentor text to make a new ending or change the scene, but having additional support such as a word box. So they can develop vocabulary as they write. Writers' workshops are a great way for students to get feedback. And in my book, Mechanically Inclined, it shows a lot of different strategies to have a writer's workshop or just individually or with a group where you can focus on things such as content, your information, how things are organized in the paragraph or essay, and also mechanics. In writing centers, students can work together with prompts and journaling. They also can peer edit and give each other feedback. And peer editing can be differentiated. You can have each student work on one aspect of writing. One student may work on transition words. Another student may work on capitalization. Someone else may be looking for quotation marks. There are many ways to integrate technology as you support writing. Readworks.org is free and it's a good way for students to receive content and as well as type in short answers. Edmodo and Edulastic are also free and you can give assignments. It could be a paragraph, it can be an essay, and then you're able to give feedback on the writing through Edmodo and Edulastic. Storybird, Write About It, and Boomwriter are also good choices, and they're mainly focusing on narratives based on pictures. So that might be good for students who are maybe level 1 to level 3. So with the right feedback, students will increase their writing proficiency. And always remember, students improve at different speeds. So be sensitive, but if a student is stagnant, be sure you change the strategy or something to help them move to the next level. Technology is being used more and more, so be sure that your students are using technology regularly so it is not impeding their progress, especially for middle school and high school. The conclusions highlight some of the findings that with the right strategies, students can write, and be sure that you're picking a strategy that is best for the skills that the student needs refinement in, and that students are using technology. Even if the technology is just a paragraph or a sentence, like if you're using ReadWorks, that's going to help that student in the future. Now we're going to look at our writing samples. So if you do not have writing samples, be sure to just pair up with another teacher that has them and you can help him or her with grouping students or thinking about different ways to support their writing.